All right, let's jump right in. We're all about digging into the wild, untold stories behind stuff you see every day. And, wow, the one we have for you today is a real gem. It all kicks off with a kind of weird question.
So, what in the world connects a rock star from the 60s to a typo? I mean, those two things are from completely different planets, right? But hang on, because the answer is going to lead us to one of the most incredible, out-of-nowhere success stories that I'm willing to bet you've never heard before.
Believe it or not, the answer has to do with the kitchen blender. A brilliant idea that was born out of total, sheer frustration. And the amazing story of a woman named Bette Nesmith Graham. This is the story of how she took an everyday pain-in-the-neck problem and spun it into a worldwide empire. So yeah, let's get into it.
Okay, so picture this. It's 1951. Bette Nesmith Graham is working as an executive secretary at a bank in Texas. Now, all these offices are getting these fancy new electric typewriters. Super modern, right? Well, yeah, but this new technology had this one massive flaw. The ribbons they used were made of carbon film, which meant if you made a mistake, it was permanent. You couldn't erase it. One tiny typo, and you had to pull out the sheet and retype the entire page. Talk about frustrating.
So you can just imagine how maddening that must have been. But here's the thing about Betty. She wasn't just a secretary. On the side, she was a freelance artist. She loved to paint. And one day, she's painting the bank windows for the holidays, and she has this total light bulb moment. She's watching how painters deal with their mistakes. They don't try to scrape the paint off or erase it. No, they just paint right over it. And that's when it clicked for her. She thought, wait a minute, why can't I do the exact same thing with my typing mistakes?
And that right there, that's innovation at its purest, isn't it? Just taking a simple idea from one field and dropping it into a totally different one. She literally took what artists do and brought it into the office. And just like that, the very first version of what she called Mistake Out was born.
And you have to love the hustle here. I mean, this wasn't some fancy invention cooked up in a corporate R&D lab. Nope. Bette went home, walked into her kitchen, grabbed her blender, of all things, and started experimenting. She mixed white tempera paint with a few other chemicals until she had this perfect, quick-drying liquid that matched the color of her company's stationery. She poured it into empty nail polish bottles, used the tiny brush to dab it on her typos, and get this, her boss never had a clue.
Well, a secret thought good doesn't stay secret for long. Pretty soon, all the other secretaries saw what she was doing, and they all wanted some of her magic liquid. So what started as just her own little trick to save her sanity, well, it quickly became a side hustle. And from there, it turned into her life's mission. She officially founded the Mistake Out company in 1956, operating right out of her own kitchen. And man, those early days were a total grind. Her own son, Michael, and yes, I mean that Michael Nesmith, the guy who would later become the guitarist for the Monkees, he and his buddies would help her fill the bottles after school. She even pitched her idea to the giant, IBM. They turned her down flat. But then, a little feature in an office supply magazine changed everything. Suddenly, she had 500 orders from all over the country. But here's the real kicker. The biggest turning point came in 1958 when she got fired from her secretarial job, basically for spending too much time on her side business. And you know what? It was the best thing that could have possibly happened to her. Because now, she could go all in. She was free to focus 100% on her company, which she renamed Liquid Paper, and the growth was just astronomical. The little operation that started in her kitchen, by 1968, it was selling 1 million bottles a year. Fast forward just 8 more years, and that number jumped to a mind-boggling 25 million bottles every single year.
But here's where the story gets even more interesting. Bette wasn't just focused on making a product and making money. She wanted to build a totally different kind of company. She had this deep belief that a business should be more than just a factory or an office. It should be a real community, a place that helped people grow, both personally and even spiritually.
I mean, this woman was so far ahead of her time, it's incredible. We're talking about the 1970s here. Her Dallas headquarters had an on-site daycare center for her employees' kids. It had a library. It had green spaces and parks for people to relax. She had art all over the building. And maybe, most importantly, she set up employee committees that actually had a real voice in how the company was run. Back then, that wasn't just unusual, it was absolutely radical. So her journey as an entrepreneur comes to this massive climax, one of the biggest buyouts of that era. But for Bet, cashing out wasn't the end of the story, not at all. It was actually the start of a whole new chapter for her, one that was all about giving back.
Okay, get ready for this.
In 1979, Bet Nesmith Graham sells liquid paper to the Gillette Corporation. The price? $47.5 million. Just let that sink in for a second. In today's money, that's well over $200 million. And it all started with a simple idea in a kitchen with a blender.
But what she did with that money, that's the real heart of her legacy. She didn't just sail off into the sunset. She immediately took that fortune and established two foundations. And their mission was simple and clear: support women. She funded scholarships for women going back to school later in life. She set up career guidance for single moms. She supported shelters for women who needed help. She basically wanted to use her success to give other women the kinds of opportunities she had to fight tooth and nail for herself.
There's this amazing quote from her where she says, "I am a feminist who wants freedom for myself and everybody else." And when you look at her life, that's exactly what she did. In the end, her little invention did way more than just cover up typos on a page. It gave her the freedom and the resources to help so many other people find theirs.
So as we finish up here, Bet's incredible story leaves us with a really powerful question to think about. You know, she looked at a problem that literally everyone else just complained about and accepted as the way things are. And she found a beautifully simple, creative fix. It makes you wonder, right? What's that everyday frustration in your life? That little annoyance that's just waiting for someone to look at it differently? What could be your liquid paper?